sis.
Hey sis.
Hey, Sister Circle.
I'm your big sis April.
And I'm your little sis Tiffany. And we are Sister Talk Network podcast.
Sisters bridging the generational gap while encouraging candid conversations
and healing amongst women, friends, and sisters. You have a sister now.
Hey sis.
Hey sis.
Hey Sister Circle.
Hey Sister Circle. Thank you
I
for
am your
joining
big
us.
sis April.
And I'm your little sis Tiffany.
And like she said, thank you for joining us. You want to tell them who we are?
We are Sister Talk Network, our podcast.
Yes, thanks for tuning in on this day. We hope everyone is doing well today.
Yes.
So today's topic is pretty heavy.
Yeah, it is. But we might as well kick it off with a bang. This is episode 20.
Yeah,
we made it.
We got to do it. Woo, woo, we made it.
Yes, episode 20. We're going to put some fireworks.
Yeah. Woo, 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 woo. Let it go. But it almost, although it's tough, it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessary for everyone to really understand our why. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
That we haven't talked about. We talk about the generational gap, which the reality of that is just the 15 years between us. Mm-hmm. But it goes so much deeper than that. Like we have that gap in age, but so much deeper, including like a separation. Mm-hmm. A separation until the last couple years where we are working through some things. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna let you kick this off because this one is heavy, but we gonna get through it.
Oh goodness, I ain't got no pearls, so I'm gonna clutch my shirt today. But like you were saying, more than a generational gap, because there is a 15-year age difference. So growing up, I knew if my mom didn't get me, I knew you would get me. Mm-hmm. And just knowing that some stuff you would pick up on that mom wouldn't necessarily pick up on, because mom, I could run rings around mom, but
that's why you shouldn't have kids when you old, y'all.
But there was definitely no ringing around you, so it's like, okay, who gonna get me?
Yeah.
But I remember, this just came to mind. I remember when I met Warren, and he said, he was just like, well, out of all your friends, your sister the smartest one. You should have had me meet her first. You wouldn't have got some points taken off if I had met your sister.
I'm gonna get him for that. I'm talking about my sis.
I was like, how you gonna take points but put them back then?
Who you talking to?
But he was just talking about the not necessarily just the street smarts that you have, because I skipped my generation.
No, it was not your fault.
Yeah,
it was the life that you were given and the environment that you were given, which was a sheltered one. Yeah, so that wasn't your fault.
Helped me in some ways, and it was a detriment in others.
In a lot of other ways.
Yeah.
I say that a lot about your generation and our family. Like, I think it's funny because I think that our parents and aunties and uncles didn't want y'all to make the same mistakes that we made. So it was like, we're going to protect them at all costs.
Yeah. And then there was never an explanation. Like, had you just been like raw and honest with me on why you didn't want me to make the mistakes. Okay, you got 3 baby daddies, so you don't want me to make them same mistakes. Then tell me that. Right. But it was just like, and even down to the control factor of trying to pick everybody, every spot, every relationship, and everybody, and then it'd be completely wrong. Yeah. Like, if you're gonna pick somebody, please pick the right one. Yeah.
Well, that's the difference between y'all and us, and we laugh about it now and talking to like mom and one of my aunts in particular, because one of my cousins, we was like 2 peas in a pod. Yeah. And we laughed because it was like we were gonna do what we wanted to do. Yeah. Like, if we had to sneak out, run back before you get home, we gonna figure it out. All this stuff, we were scared, right? We were scared. Don't get me wrong, I was afraid of my parents, but we were more clever. Like, we had it down to a science, and knowing this is what time she get home from Bible study. So we gonna run back home.
But see, I had dad. I think the difference too is I had dad.
Yeah, that's
dad
true.
wasn't going to Bible study.
That's
like
true.
He was home. And
That's
then
true.
he had eyes. So, he was the maintenance man where we lived. So I remember the one day, like, you couldn't go through the tunnels. So I remember the one day I went through the tunnels. And I never forget, one of my big brothers at the time, Noel, snitched on me.
Wow.
And I'm like, you can't, like, I just wanted to go because, like, they had a woman that sold candy, but she lived past the tunnel. So I'm like, I'm just going to go to her house and go get some candy and come right back.
Yeah.
Ain't work.
Yeah, you knew better. You knew that wasn't going to work.
Yeah, he had too many eyes.
Yeah,
that's what
people
that was.
all around. But I need to take it a little bit deeper because there's so many things, like even in thinking about this topic, there's so many things that have gone unspoken. And I almost wanted to have a conversation with you this morning. You notice, like, I kind of avoided you. Yeah. But it was like God said no. Like, let him do what he wanted to do. So I'm like, okay, I won't. But just the whole not being available wrecks me. Me not being available to you. And if I'm honest, it's something that I'm not healed from. Like, I'm still working on healing from that, because when I think about those moments that you really needed a big sister and I wasn't there, it's heartbreaking to me. And a lot of it is because we were we were separated in ways for reasons that should have never happened. And I couldn't be there. But when I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, I need to be honest and thinking about it and saying that even if, don't get me wrong, I would have been present, but I couldn't have been fully present because of my own struggles, just because of the whole family dynamic and the lack of showing emotion and empathy and being strong and not really, being there in a way that you should be there.
Yeah. I don't think, like, looking at it, and God was already dealing with me because he was just like, this episode, I'm about to strip you. Woo, and I'm just like, what are you about to do? But I feel like even had you tried, they had certain family members, and we tried to, like, protect people as much as we can. So I'm only allowing God to pull the covers off of who he want me to pull the covers off of. But in some ways, you were exiled from me.
Yeah.
And I, like, now looking at it and looking at the time frame from when I did my anger management, that's why I was angry. But I didn't, until today, didn't have a reason for why I was so angry, because people had me labeled as the spoiled brat that didn't want to be bothered with anybody, because certain people wanted complete control on what they told me or how they raised me, and they didn't want anybody to go against that. So that's why, like, now I think in certain family members, they already knew I was going to go against the grain. So they tried to manipulate that in a way that benefited them. Like, okay, we have to look like the perfect family regardless. And if I'm being honest, because we didn't have the same father, I believe it was automatically assumed that you didn't fit.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And if I'm honest, there were times when, and we didn't have a whole lot of time in the home together, but there were times when I was jealous of the fact that you had what I viewed as a complete unit. You had your mom, you had your dad, you had you. And I was like this person trying to figure out, okay, well, where do I fit in? So that pushed me out. That pushed me out very early, which because it's like I don't fit into this dynamic. And just wandering aimlessly for years, trying to figure it out, until maybe, 6 years ago, when I finally got the courage to seek my biological father's family and to know like my sisters, my brothers, and to get those puzzle pieces to finally fit. So that freed me up in a way where, okay, now that I have the answers over here, the biological father side, now I need to go back and address this and figure this out.
Yeah.
Which it's been hard. It's been a journey because of the anger. It's just so many emotions.
Yeah.
You know, it starts with the anger. And I want to, for everybody who has labeled you, everybody who has dimmed your light, everybody who's tried to cover up who God says you are, I apologize. Everybody that didn't allow you to move freely and be who you are, which brought on all kinds of trauma that you should have never even had to endure. I apologize. And I'm grateful to God for bringing us to this moment now. As I was driving, he reminded me, and I did talk to you about this, about a moment that happened. You couldn't have been any more than you may have been 16. So it was 30 plus. It was, how old are you now?
Shoot. I forgot.
36, right?
I'm 36 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it had to be at least 20 years ago. And I talked to you about this, and we were at a women's retreat. And I could hear him speak so clearly concerning me and you. Enough. And all that I could do is go to you, and we cried. I can see it like it was yesterday. We cried, we embraced each other, and all I could say is enough. Enough. The enemy won't come between us anymore. But because life is life, we went back and we kept on going and doing the same things we were doing. And that's when this was supposed to all start. Yeah. So now we catching up.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
I remember the one, they had so many conferences during that time. And I remember one conference, and I remember you being up at the altar. And you was in the middle of praise and worship, and your finger kept going like this. And I was looking, and the amount of light that was in that room around you while you were going like this, I was just like, yeah, people about to think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Because just even with mom, like, not even really knowing what it was at the time, but I remember I know now what it was, because the enemy torments each generation. So I know that mom sacrificed a lot of what she was supposed to do in her gifts because the enemy was coming after me. That was when I started getting really sick out of nowhere. I was in the hospital. I remember one time I had a temperature of 104. And the doctors could not even believe that I was still here. I was literally melting bags of ice. Like, they were putting ice on my head. 2 seconds, it was melted. And they could not even explain it. Yeah. And mom was just like, nobody touches my daughter. And she focused her attention on that. And it wasn't until I kind of, not with the whole temperature, but I had the same experience with my child. And the enemy just like, if you give up, this is right before right before you put the mics for the podcast. He was like, if you stop, I'll give up.
Wow.
And I was just like cussing and praying. You are in for the ass whooping of your life if you think I'm gonna give up, because we both gonna go swinging. And that's what's like, no, I'm gonna teach now. All my kids is gonna learn how to chase your behind up out of here. Because you will not find an empty door, a crack, anything.
Nothing.
But just even looking at, I remember drawing a picture of mom, and I circled it so many times. She still has it to this day. And I said, these are all your angels protecting you. You're going to be okay. And she broke down.
And you were young then, right?
Yes. I was 6 or 7.
Wow.
Not even really understanding the full gratification of what I was seeing around her. But those gifts come, and the enemy knew and used people that had those doors open in our family to be like, okay, well, if them two ever get together, what are they going to be able to chase out?
Yeah, that's true. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And we know that the enemy comes to steal that and steal those times. So it just takes me back again to that moment. And God showed it to me, I told you, as a missed opportunity for what he wanted to do. But we're here now. And I am so grateful for that. And I saw this quote and it said, oneness, like all conflict arises. If you're trying to be one, okay, so we have oneness. All conflict arises when one becomes two. And all conflict resolves when two become one. And a lot of times people look at that in a marriage and things like that. But when I saw it, it rang true for us because it was just me for a long time. It was me and it was Mom.
Yeah.
So then, of course, she got married and then you come along and then it's like this conflict comes because now you have all of these outside factors. And it wasn't until we got to the place of understanding what we talk about all the time, which two is better than one, and the strength that we had and how our gifts were so closely connected, that oneness has come. And listen, I know y'all have heard us say before, but I don't play about my sister.
No,
I don't care who it is, family, friend, or foe. I do not play about my sister. And I think about all of the times that on my ride up, my mind is just going. I had to keep my praise music on all morning because my mind is just going. And it's like flashbacks of all those situations where people have said and done things to divide us. And it's like, I wish a ninja would at this point.
I honestly remember the last time, and it was like, that's when people started to get cussed out about you. I was pregnant with my first one. So we talk about a little bit over, she's 6. So around about 7 years ago. And it was the whole gender thing because I wanted to tell the family what I was having. Yeah. Well, partly because I was carrying a girl and I just knew certain people was going to be upset. So I'm like, people wanted me to have a boy first. So I was like, okay, the only person that knew was you because I'm like, you weren't going to be there. So I was like, I got to tell her. So I remember this one individual telling me, it's like, oh, your sister told. She told.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
I was just like, no, you would have told. I know daggone well my sister didn't tell. And I was like, you know what? To the fact that even if she did tell, I know she would have came and told me first that she told. And it would not have came. It would not have came from you. But they were so mad. But even looking at this person today, because they still around, and the amount of doors that they have open, and I'm just like, you will never. You will never. After that, there was no other incident because it was just like the words I used. I'm like, I'm sorry because certain people in your family you gotta respect regardless. Right. But I'm like, oh, I'll just say sorry later. But we're not gonna have this problem no more. That's it.
But isn't that like the enemy? Like he comes to divide and conquer. Like as long as he can keep division, and it doesn't matter what setting it's in. It could be your marriage. It could be amongst your kids, your siblings, in a corporate setting. No matter what, as long as he can divide, he wins, he conquers. And then also that spirit of competition that comes in. Oh, like who's better? Who's the better one? Just child. It's been a lot.
And that person's upbringing, they didn't have the best upbringing. So I was the source of unconditional love that that person, I was the only one that they was receiving it from. So to have me, I feel like that's why a lot of times like I was locked up a lot of times because
this is all I had. And I honestly thought about that too. Like when you think about it like that from a standpoint of this is all I have, I need to connect at all costs. And we talk about the whole thing of rejection. And it's like, I got to hold this one tight and manipulate everything I can to keep her near because I can't be rejected by her. when you've had rejection in so many other instances in your life.
Yeah, but what they tried to do, now I'm not even close to that person.
No, I get it. Like I get it because it works against you eventually. Yeah. Like you can only manipulate, and I can't even say only, to God be the glory for a renewed mind, because some people are manipulated for their entire lives and they never break free. But once you get that aha moment or that revelation of who you really are, no, you can't tell me the sky's purple when I know it's blue. Yeah, you know?
Yeah, we had that conversation. Like, yeah, I know where that came from.
Yeah, like you can't. That's not gonna work for me no more.
Yeah,
but in just the whole situation and looking at it, the trauma that came, and for me it was delayed trauma because I didn't recognize it for so long until we really started to tap into how things went, the separation, those situations where, say, you needed me or I clearly would have needed you, the missed opportunities of just having that quality time, the quality years. It brings trauma to me in a way that I can't even really explain. And the healing has to come, but I ain't there. I won't even pretend.
Me neither. A lot of stuff that happened, I wasn't even allowed to talk about because I remember people saying, what happens in this house stays in this house.
That's a whole nother topic. Yeah. We'll talk about that another day.
But it was literally, if anything happens underneath this roof, you can't share it with somebody outside of this roof. So you not physically living there. It was like you can't discuss this. Yeah. I remember. Now I'm gonna say this, and I don't care. But
I'm clutching my pearls.
I remember mom testing me because her sisters would come knock on the door, and she was like, "You can't open the door for nobody." So her sisters would knock on the door, and I would be sitting there, and I would see, okay, it's Aunt so-and-so at the door, but knowing I couldn't open it. And she would ask her sisters to go over to the house and knock on the door to see if I was going to answer it. Now, I would never do that with my kids. Yeah. If you see, and it's a familiar face at the door, you're allowed to say, okay, well, this person is at the door, or come open the door. Yeah. But for you to just be like, I can't even open the door.
That's a control thing for real. Like just wanting to be in control of every aspect of your life. And I think, like, I go back and forth with trying to give people grace and then being mad. And it's like we almost are usually on the opposite ends of the spectrum. It's funny how God works, because when you have the moment of anger, I'm usually having the moment of grace, and vice versa. Yeah. But I think we have to look at people's upbringing in that situation, because I can recall when we lived in Philly on Jefferson Street, which is that was our family home. It was the same thing. Don't you open the door for nobody. And we're still to this day, like, if don't just pop up on me, because of the way we were raised. So I understand that piece of it, but I don't understand the manipulation of, well, I'm going to now test you, or just the whole wanting to control everything about you. And I do know, we have talked about some other things, that some of it came because, again, they didn't want you to make the same mistakes that we made, and we was just bad. I won't even pretend. We were sneaky, we were bad, and they didn't want you to make those mistakes. But sheltering you caused just a different type of trauma. But trauma still.
Yeah, like even growing up, and just like how some of the friends that I really wanted to be around, and being in the car ride home and like, I don't like that girl. They fast and they this and they that. But you're labeling them, and this person is not fast. Like, okay, because she got bamboo earrings in, you labeling her fast, or you labeling her fast because of her body shape. And she just developed early. She's not fast. She has the same morals that I have. But just being labeled, and just them raising both of us like we were better than everybody else. And it's funny because I look at it the same way as a child is raised racist.
Absolutely.
Because they don't know that they have that ignorance until they're thrown in the world, and the world shows them, okay, we got an issue here. And now you have caused your child to be in an unsafe world because of something that you taught them. They taught me that.
Yeah.
They taught me, okay, well, you come from a 2-parent home, and this person, they only have their mom or they only have their dad. Okay, so I got 2 parents that could possibly F me up.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's all that means.
Your odds are
yes, like even I was doing, they we're working with the child study team for my daughter, and one of the questions they asked me was, did me and my husband come from a 2-parent home? And I'm like, well, what the hell does it matter?
Yeah,
like it doesn't. Did they come from? We both came from loving homes. That was my answer. Don't ask me about that 2-parent, because I'm gonna tell you all.
Yeah, because they like to place those labels based on your environment, which somebody can be raised in a 1-parent home and have a village of people and just be beautiful.
Yeah.
Have no issues or limited issues, where you have a whole lot of people that are in 2-family homes. And we see it all the time where the parents stay because of the kids. So how much dysfunction is being seen?
A whole lot.
A lot. Just because you're staying because of the kids. So I don't, 2-family, 2-person, 1-person, it doesn't matter if the dysfunction is there. So I want to talk about the loyalty, like split loyalties. Because as a kid, of course, you have loyalty to your parents. And I think that was something that affected us a lot too. Because if somebody is always in your ear, like making you think X, Y, Z, and I'm all you got, then you can't be loyal to others. And it just makes me wonder how different things would have been if we weren't divided in that way. Like, I think about that all the time too.
Well, my household was divided. Like, I was already tugged and pulled because I had to pick loyalty between 2 parents.
Wow. Okay.
If they were arguing, I had to pick sides. I remember instances where our parents was arguing, and Dad would get out the car and be like, I'm walking home. And I wouldn't see him for 2 days. Like, I just remember, like, and I was growing up, I was, wanting to do everything with him. I was a tomboy, even though Mom was, like, refusing for me to be a tomboy. Yes, you gonna wear this dress. I remember when she did my room pink, and I cried. Like, I hated it. I'm like, I do not want my room. Pink and yellow was the 2 colors that I absolutely hated, and this is what you want to do to my room.
I love those colors.
I hated them. I was so mad. I wanted my room blue, and my favorite color at the time was teal. So I'm like, this is what I want. She's like, well, that's not gonna look right. But this is my room. This is what color that I want my room.
That's what I want.
Yeah. But just already coming from a house where on the outside, yes, you come from a 2-parent home, but that household was divided as soon as those doors closed.
Yeah. And I think a lot of kids deal with that. A lot of them deal with that. And I want to give a quick disclaimer to say that we don't want this to come off as doom and gloom. It is clearly to say to any of you who may have conflict in any situation. It could be a sibling, a spouse, just friend situations, that there is hope, because look at where we are now. We're still evolving and growing, but there's still a lot of healing that has to take place. And we talk about moving in the spirit of transparency, and that's what this platform is about. So as we're healing, we're talking about it.
Yes.
That's the difference.
And when God has a plan, even if it takes 15, 20 years, he's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep talking to you until you get it.
Yes.
And now, like, even looking at where we are, I remember for me, I think like some of our aha moments were where I feel like in some ways we were spiritually fighting, because I remember asking you to be my maid of honor in a wedding, And I was like, I ain't care nobody else. I'm like, I just want my sister. And you was like, well, if you want to pick one of your friends, like, no, did you hear what I said? Like, and I remember even down to, I feel like because of the divide, I was partially responsible for now proving that you're worth everything to me. Like, for me, nobody comes before you other than my kids. But
and God.
Yes. But
move along.
But you being my sister, like, even when I said I wanted you to be Arya's godmom, and you again was just like, well, if you want to have one of my friends, I'm like, listen, godmom to me means if God forbid I'm not here and you're still here, you're the only person left that I trust with my kids. Yeah. And just getting you to understand that and looking at it like, what the hell did they do to my sister?
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly struggle with that. And I remember, I remember the godmom thing. I remember that, and I remember you asking me, and I remember me saying, oh, well, I'll be auntie no matter what. Like, so if you want to just have one of your friends, but it goes back to that feeling not worthy, but not really understanding that's the why of, are you sure you want me? Are you sure you want me to do that? And understanding your self-worth. That's one part of it. And also the responsibility that comes along with that. Because if I'm honest in situations, well, I know when the rubber meets the road, I'm going to do what I need to do, but just not messing it up. Kind of thing.
But in my eyes, you were the only one that didn't mess me up.
Okay.
You raised me. Like, there were certain aspects in my life where, as much as I pour into my kids, you've poured into me. Yeah. I remember getting my hair braided and you taking me and was just like, oh, you want your hair braided? We going. I remember you taking me to go get my eyebrows done because they was bushy and I had some problems. Or even you showing me how to dress. I remember us going to the beauty supply store and there was these pair of brown heels and you was like, I'm getting these. You wearing these. I wore the heck out of them heels. Y'all, they was peeling and I was painting brown nail polish on them.
She hard on shoes, y'all.
Out them heels. But I remember all the times that you poured into me and and I was pouring into other people and nobody else was pouring back.
Not giving back.
So out of everybody, I wanted my kids to see what I had when I did have my sister, because that was the only thing that mattered to me. The lost years are the lost years, but God has more than made up for the time that we lost.
No, I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't agree. I'm still struggling with that lost time because me at 52 versus me at 30, 25, when you were a teenager. Those years can't be restored. Now, he can restore in other ways, like in blessing us in other ways, but I can't get that back. You can't get that back, that time back. So I trust him to heal the time that was lost, but you mentioned a lot of things about me giving. If you notice, everything that you mentioned was me giving in a material way. It's me getting your hair braided, getting your eyebrows done.
No, but it wasn't you. It wasn't the material things. It was what you were saying to me.
Yeah, along with
during those times. Yeah, you were the only person who told me I was beautiful. Yeah, you were the only person who didn't pick out a flaw of mine. You were the only one that did that.
Yeah. And I mentioned that, and I'm glad you brought that up because I don't remember any of that. Because when I think back to, and not just in you, in a lot of instances, I am one to give a lot materialistically as an overcompensation for the things that I feel like I can't give maybe emotionally. And I'm now learning that I don't need to necessarily do that unless I want to. But I've seen year after year after year, like going back as far as, for instance, I remember even in high school, like where I felt like, oh, for people to like me kind of thing. Oh, I got the bill. I'll pay for that. Girl, I ain't had that money, girl. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. But God is showing me now with the people that he's bringing into my life, no, you have a lot to offer. Like, and I've had people say, you know, and even we've had people say like iron sharpens iron, and it doesn't matter where you think you are, you have a lot to offer and a lot to give. Yeah. So that's something too that I'm learning from, I'm healing from, and just wanting to be there in a way where it's not necessarily a materialistic thing that's attached to it.
But when you did that, you were, I'm not going to say the only person, but you were one of the only people that wasn't holding it over my head and saying, oh, I did this, I did this. Or it wasn't a cover up because you did something negative and now you're trying to replace it. So that's why it was so important to me, because there was you weren't trying to fix anything.
Right. No, it's genuine. It's always genuine. It's always from the heart. Always. Yeah. Always. But it's been my way, and it will continue to be my way. I love to bless people, and I pray that God will continue to bless me so I can continue to be a blessing to people. But the understanding, it's an insecurity of my own that you have a lot more to offer than that. You know, you're not just surface like that.
I think we both done that. Yeah. Like growing up and just trying to overcompensate for other areas. Because when somebody tries to pour into us that same way, we cringe.
Yeah, we running like, why are you doing that? I don't want all that. Don't do that.
Yes. I'm like, one of my girlfriends paying the bill, and I'm just like, why are you paying the bill? Right. We gonna split it. Yeah. Or sending them a cash app afterwards, because it's like, no, I'm not gonna let you pay this bill. Yes. I remember one of my girlfriends when I was pregnant. And I had been in the house for like 4 days, and I'm like, I just want to go outside. I want to drive in a car, and I want to go get something to eat. And I'm trying to, Warren was gone, and I'm trying to shovel the snow pregnant. Oh, and she called me. She's like, what you doing? I was like, shoveling the snow. She cussed me out so bad. Luckily, she lived like 5 minutes up the road, and she came and helped me shovel. And she's like, can you just go in the house, please? I'm like, no, I'm about to be out here with you. Yeah. But never had somebody
that's the difference
that would do that. Like, you coming over here to help me shovel the snow? She wanted to shovel it herself. She's like, I'm not let you pregnant. She's like, you gonna have that baby? I was like, well, I'm just gonna have it. I'm gonna get out this house if I had this baby, because I'll be at the hospital.
But is it because we wouldn't allow those type of people into our lives for a season? Or is it because, and I can't even say that okay, that's one aspect of it. Or because, like you said, we just didn't know how to receive it. Like, I've been out to dinner with a girlfriend too, and trying to grab the check first. It's like, no, I got this. You always do that. And then she cussing me out. You do this all the time. No, we're not doing it. I'm going to pay for this. But just not knowing how to receive it.
I think it's never, for me, I didn't see an example of that. And I understand it, because I started doing that with my kids, of not going out, because I felt like it was a sacrifice of my kids' time to go out and have friends. Yeah. But my kids need to see that mommy has friends. True. But I didn't see that growing up. I was mom's whole life. Like, she, at one point, she wasn't working. So she helped me with my homework. I seen her clean the house. I seen her cook dinner. And I seen her do that day in and day out. I never even seen none of her girlfriends over at the house. So going from that, I didn't know what that looked like or how that would feel. Yeah. So it's out of place for me.
Yeah, and I think in our family growing up, the circle was tight. The family was a circle. Like, there were very many friends.
That's one word for it.
Yeah. You know what? Don't listen to her, y'all.
That's one.
The circle was, I shouldn't say tight. It was closed. It was almost like we're not going to let other people infiltrate. And I won't even get into the reasons why, because I have my opinions, but I'm going to let that sit right there. But so that never gave us the opportunity to really know what it looked like to have people, friends outside of family.
Yeah. Yeah. We were raised around a whole bunch of strong women. So I mean, it's a blessing because we know where our strength comes from.
Yeah.
But never seeing that vulnerability.
Yes, that's
is really, really hard. Like I even in church, like I should at least see you be vulnerable there, but not even seeing it there.
That is so key. And that's what I was talking about in those missed opportunities and the times where I felt like I would have wanted to be there. But it's me now as this person I am now. Like, I honestly don't know if the divide wasn't there when we were younger, if we would have had the relationship that we have right now, because I'm a completely different person. And like you said, never seeing that vulnerability, never seeing people cry, never seeing people give hugs just because. So it created this dynamic of you have to show strength at all costs. And honestly, most of my tears, if I think about it, from teenager, even adulthood, were tears with just me in the room, like me alone, because I would never show that vulnerability to somebody else because it's viewed as a weakness. Yeah. And that's awful. Like, in thinking about it, that's awful. Yeah. It is. Like, and just not feeling that you can trust people to open up to them in that way.
Yeah. And now people on TikTok and Instagram turning the camera on crying.
I saw that. Oh my goodness. And I'm thinking, what is this?
Yeah. Like, I wish. I'm glad the only social media I had was MySpace, and that was very limited because
these kids gonna be damaged for life.
That I would have did, yeah, because everybody's gonna be able to
your kids be on TikTok all day.
Man, the stuff that they would be able to pull up.
That. Like this one celebrity, he's on there and he's crying. Don't get me wrong, he was crying over very good reasons, just like the state of the world and, and black men and all of that. But I'm like, why are we doing this for the gram?
Yeah. Can't
we use this energy to take it somewhere else?
Yeah, like I've seen people turn on the camera and cry over a lost animal. Wow. Like, are we really turning on the camera? Like, the fact that you had enough time to turn on the camera and then start crying.
Like, why on the camera? Don't get me wrong. I know how people feel about their animals, their family to them.
Yeah.
But it's just like the loss of a loved one. I'm not going to turn on the camera and cry. I don't get it. I guess that's their way of expressing themselves.
I don't know. And I mean, I've lost some birds and a dog where I was just like, my dog Cash, like, I ain't eat for days. Like, I remember that. I understand what that feels like when you have, in some instances, I feel like animals are closer to you than people. Because of, I don't know if they have a spirit or not. I'm not even gonna get into that. But just the behaviors that they had.
They can sense things.
I was pregnant when we had Cash. He knew I was pregnant before I did. He was acting different. I'm like, this is day one of conception and you acted crazy. Like, how did you even pick up on that? He laid near my feet the whole entire time. I remember when I lost my job, he was at my feet the whole entire time. But this is the same dog that when he got sick, nobody would have ever told me that I would be cleaning up dog throw up and happy to do it. Like, he was just a different type of person. I was brushing his teeth. I was cleaning his ears out. That was my baby.
Whole human.
Yeah. Now we had other dogs that I'm like, I ain't doing that. But he was just different.
I've heard people say that, like, your pets know when you're sick. They know when you're sad. They know all of those things.
They do. And it's absolutely amazing. Yeah. They pay more attention than most humans do.
Mm-hmm.
They really do.
And you talk about loyalty and unconditional love, like they love you.
I remember the one day, me and Warren we had got to an argument, and that's his dog. Mm-hmm. He had that dog like at least 5-6 years before he met me. Dog chose me and was sitting there and was growling at him. He was just like, did he just?
Because you took care of him, because he knew that
you talking to me crazy. You might want to go in the other room.
Don't be talking to her like that.
Yeah, he had my back. Like no,
because you were the one that took care of him, and I think that's how animals, pets are. Like they know who's feeding them, who's caring for them, and that's where their loyalty lies. That's important. So we're gonna keep healing. Like again, sisters, if you have a situation where it's something that you're working through, it's hard, there's conflict, remember again that all conflict arises when one becomes two. All conflicts resolve when two become one. So just getting to a point of being open with that conflict, first off, and working through it. Like you can work through anything. And ultimately the result is, which God has told us, that he wanted to use all of this. And we can't get to that point of allowing him to use all of it if we're not talking about it on this platform, because it's clear, and we've said before, that he can't heal what we won't reveal. So now that it's out there in our struggle and our path to get into this point, as on my drive up, and I didn't even know what the conversation was going to look like, but I heard clearly that this was going to be a pivotal moment. I was reminded of that other moment that was years ago where we missed it, but this time we got it right. So to God be the glory.
Yes. I remember you saying we was going to have to play catch up. We was like, why is everything moving so fast? She's like, I'm about to play catch up.
So this is that pivotal moment of us addressing the elephant in the room. And honestly, something that I didn't want to talk about because I'm not healed from it. The trauma is real. It's real. But I know that everything happens in his timing. And it's just another one of those situations that we have to submit to him and allowing the power of God to work in it to bring healing. But again, I don't play about my sister.
And I don't either. You already know.
Yeah. So it is what it is. So all of those years of loneliness, which is clearly what it was because of that missing piece. And we talked about it like over the last couple years with us getting to this point, that our lives were directly tied together. It was two pieces that were intertwined. So we almost couldn't really move effectively or fully in our gifts without each other, because he tells me something, he confirms through you, vice versa. He gives you the answers. He gives me the answers. So you know what? It's go time.
Tabitha like, oh, it's go time. Yes, it's go time.
It's definitely go time.
We gotta get a T-shirt. It's foot on next now. Like it's foot on next now.
Exactly. We've revealed it. We've talked about it. It's out there, and we are moving past it and healing it.
Yes.
So I think we need to start to wrap up.
Yes.
I'm glad we got through that. And I love you. I love you so much.
I love you too.
So much.
Like, I'm not playing about you
either. Woo, chill.
Like,
yeah. We're going to wrap up with the way we always wrap up, and that is what sisterhood means to you. You want to go or you want me to go?
I have a good one.
Okay.
So mine's is rejoice. Because finally getting to this point, and just regardless of what has happened in the past, we can either stay stuck there, and that's where I think the enemy is just like, in every aspect, not just this one. He wants us to get stuck in that, how we talked about love does not keep an account in the last episode, but it does not keep an account. So I can't keep an account of what somebody else has done versus what God is doing.
Yeah.
And there's also this practice of, like, if you want to know if somebody is right for you or not, list all the negatives and list all the positives. So we didn't have a challenge, so that's the challenge for this week. I want all of our sisters to write down all of the negatives and then write down how God can use all of it.
Negatives personally or
like just negative circumstances.
Okay,
like
gotcha.
Okay, wherever your downfalls is, like whatever you think God can't use, whatever you feel like, okay, well I messed up here or I lost time here, and then God is not, he does not have an aspect of time.
Right. That's
he
true.
does not care about the time. He's just like, what somebody could have done. Like, I know we always talk about education and just how some people feel like we feel like certain people are farther along because they've had the head start.
Yeah.
But he's like, I don't care about that head start because I'm God.
Yeah.
So where you're looking at somebody else and you're just like, okay, well they have this, this, and this, and this, but every odd stacked against you, I'm still God. And he was like, and he was there's this thing with Usher, and he be like, watch this. And God's like, yeah, watch this. Like, watch what I'm about to do. There's nothing that you could put on that negative list that he's not going to outdo on that I'm God list.
I receive that. That's for me. And I accept that challenge because, like I was saying earlier, I didn't agree that he can make up for it. Like, I know he can in other ways, but I am stuck in that time loss and, the regret of what we could have done, blah, blah, blah. But I know I have to move past that. And it's not in a way that I'm angry at anyone. I've gotten over that. It's just the sadness or the grief of the lost time. So I am going to, sisters, be writing down all those negative things and allowing God to use them for his glory, his purpose, which he's already told us he's going to do.
Yeah.
So my focus needs to be more on that and not on the lost time. So that's a word for me. Thank you. So joyful, yes. Sisters. For me, it is the common theme that I've been talking about the whole day, which is oneness. Sisterhood to me means oneness. Conflict arises when you try to come together as sisters. You move past it and you become one. And two is better than one. We talk about it all the time. So that's what sisterhood means to me.
Yes. And we want to hear in the comments what the sisterhood mean to you. Get in
let
the
us
comments,
know.
start typing. We right back, y'all. We right back.
Let us know. So I think that's it for our time today.
Yes.
We hope that everyone enjoys the rest of your day. Thank you for being with us for episode 20.
Yes, we did it.
Yay. And we will see you soon.
See you.